Hey everyone, welcome to the Nurses Journal Live. I'm so excited. I'm here with Miss Julie. She is this seasoned nurse, awesome wellness advocate, and I will let her tell her story. But I just want to say thank you guys so much. Things are really rolling with Cortex, and I encourage you guys to check out our website. But that's all I'm going to say about me because this is not about me. It is about our profession as a whole. So I will let Julie introduce herself and kind of tell a little bit about her story.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm so excited. We met on Clubhouse and here we are doing a podcast together. This is so exciting. And we're on different parts of the US. So thank you so much. I'm honored. And we just, I love collaborating and I love connecting with like-minded soul sisters. And that's what you are. Like you're on this planet to change it up. And I'm just excited to witness you and be a part of you. So thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is going to be great. So, I when I do a podcast, I kind of send out some of the questions. One of the things I do, like nursing has been so helpless lately. We've been like, oh my God, what's going on? So, something about the best thing that happened to you today.
Uh, the best thing that happened to me today is, I'm all about pay it forward. And the first thing that comes to my brain is I want to create change in how we take care of the people that are working right now. And I took a customer out for lunch and I tipped my waitress $50. And that really just warmed my heart. And I'm committed. I sat at a restaurant. It's like the second time in a year that I sat in a restaurant. It felt amazing. The plexiglass is up between all of our benches and the sweet, you know, waitress was just phenomenal and just endearing. And I'm like, I'm committed to paying that forward to everybody who's showing up out here and being exposed to the elements and whatnot. So I'm just excited. The best thing is just paying it forward.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. So I guess we'll start in the beginning, right? So you're a nurse. So tell us a little bit about your journey in nursing, how you got started and what kind of things you've done.
Thank you. Yeah, my career started, I feel like a while ago when my brother was born. I was 10 years old when my brother was born, and I was watching his nurse show us my brother, and she took all his little clothes off. I mean, he was like 6 pounds, and she was taking all his clothes off, and she takes his little, diaper off, and she holds him up just naked like that. And I'm like, what is that, Dad? My dad's like, well, that's his outside plumbing, Julie. And I'm like, what is that? I go,
Outside plumbing. I love it.
outside plumbing. And he's like, you have inside plumbing and he's got outside plumbing. And I'm like, I don't know how he learned that, but he
Oh,
did.
great. I have 3 boys. I'm going to have to use that.
Outside plumbing. And I just looked at her and I was like, that's it. At 10, I'm like, I am going to take care of babies. I'm going to hold them and I'm going to teach other people what outside plumbing is. And so that was that was my dream. Like I was pretty sure at 10 I was going to be a nurse. And I went to in high school, I became a candy striper. I was a volunteer in labor and delivery. And then I graduated.
What is a candy striper for those like younger nurses that don't know what?
Ah,
I know what it is, sort
you
of.
do? Okay.
Sort of, but explain what a candy striper is.
So a candy striper is somebody who you don't have to be qualified, where you actually volunteer in a department that's needed or a department that you want to volunteer in. And you basically, I had my reign was the kitchen. So I would just go to room and say, Mrs. Melissa, congratulations on your baby. What can I get you? Are you hungry for some crackers or Sprite? And she would give me her little order and I would go get it and then bring it back. Or baby's diaper's wet, or I want to take a nap. Can you watch baby? Literally, this was how it went down. There was no like bands that I had to check or,
Yeah.
or the security was like, there was no security back then. And so I would rock babies. That was my job. So I did that for 3 years. And on my breaks, I would go to the library and they had VCR tapes of women giving birth, and I would watch women giving birth, like labor after labor after labor. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So as a, freshman, sophomore, junior in high school, I was watching labor. And it was almost like, when I became a nurse and I did my practicum in nursing, in labor and delivery, when I saw my first labor, it wasn't my first labor. It was just like, I wasn't scared. I was like, oh, I've watched a ton of these. And that little, my first baby, I'll never forget it. It was born in month of May, and her name was Madison May. She was so cute, and I still have her little footprints. And Madison May, born, I think it was like May something 2000, and I graduated in 96. So yeah, that was where it all began. My love for nursing.
Wow. I've never done labor and delivery. Now, luckily, I had a really good clinical. So I saw all the terrible things and I knew it wasn't for me. And I was like, like when I had my own baby, I was like, this is an out of body experience. And then, I continued to have two more. I guess I never figured it out. But okay. So labor and delivery. So, and then what happened? Then after how many years did you do L&D?
Yeah. So when I graduated, I said, you know what? When I'm hunkered into nursing, I'm going to be there forever. I'm signed up for 50 plus years in nursing. And so I said, I'm going to go volunteer somewhere. And so I decided I would be a missionary, and I was a missionary in the Amazon.
Oh, that's so cool. That's where I'm from.
You are? You're from Brazil?
I was born in Colombia, like literally in Bogota. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Cool. Yeah. So tell me that's awesome.
Yeah. So I volunteered where there was a boat, and so I thought I'm gonna go and be with the team. There was another nurse going with me, and I was told there was gonna be a doctor, there was gonna be a dentist. So I fly into Manaus, Brazil, and we wait for our boat to come in because we're basically replacing another set of nurses. So that set of nurses, and we're on Brazil time. So it's like, I didn't know things aren't like this. Like, I'm like used to this. I'm like, things happen this way. And 2 weeks later, we're waiting for our boat to come in. And finally comes in, and we have our replacement, and we get out there 48 hours in the interior of the Amazon. They drop us off. I have like 2 Samsonite pieces of luggage with like curling irons and blow dryers and tampons for a year. And you know what? I mean, like, I'm prepared to stay out there for a year, right? So we get out there, and we get off the boat, and there was a guy who came and picked us up. He's like, I'm the pastor of the boat. And I'm like, pastor? Like, what? What's happening here? I'm like, Twilight Zone. So he goes, yeah, I'm the pastor. I run the boat, and you're the replacement nurses. And we just said goodbye to the 2 other nurses that were with us. And they were from Brazil, so they knew Portuguese. So here's these 2 American nurses that have no lick of Portuguese that are supposed to replace the nurses that, So anyways, we get on, and so we start this journey, and it was all about really, it was this journey of serving the people during the day, and we would travel to another village at night. And we did that day. At night we would travel, and that's
no way.
Yeah, and we would get there, 4 to 5 a.m. and we would start working at 7 a.m. because it's like 100 degrees by 9. It's like, you're in complete sweat because it's like, anyways. So I lasted 4 months. So it was
good. That's good for somebody who never had experienced something. It's good for someone who thought it would be appropriate to pack a blow dryer. Okay.
Never used it. We didn't have electricity. I took a bath behind the boat.
You did pretty good for someone who packed a blow dryer.
I know. I'm telling you. I know. Me and my friend Cammie, that was quite the experience. It was phenomenal. So we got done with that, and we came back, and I thought, gosh, I'm just going to get right into labor and delivery. Well, that was in I came back in December of 96, and in January 2017, in 1997, I'm like, gonna get at my job. Well, actually, I got to tell you, I took my boards. This is a really good story. Okay. This is a really hopeful story for nurses that are young. I really struggled in school. School was really tough for me. I have a couple learning disabilities, and my parents couldn't put me through nursing school, so I started my own house cleaning job, house cleaning business. I cleaned 9 houses a week, and I took care of an elderly woman that was paralyzed every night. So I would basically have 2 to 3 hours to study and so I was barely making it. And I basically was failing. And this nurse, Dorsu Redford, she's the reason why I was a nurse for 23 years. And she pulled me out, and she's like, Julie, you're failing. Like you're really not doing well. She's like, but I believe in you, and I see you in clinic, and I see you with your patients, and you are by far like like hands down one of the best bedside nurses. Like they love you, you love them, you build rapport really quickly, you build trust, set people at ease, blah blah blah. But she's like, you suck in school, so let's see what's going on. So from that moment on, she gave me every test orally. She gave me every test for 2 years. She gave me all my tests orally because I had this learning disability. And I brought my GPA from 2.8 all the way to 3.8 when I graduated 2 years later. All, with her giving me that. Then I took, I know, crazy. Yeah. So I took my boards right before I went to the Amazon, and I was in the Amazon when I got a fax from my mom saying you failed the boards. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? So I get back there. So I'm like, I'm going to take the boards. So I studied for couple months. I retook them. I failed them a second time. So, you can only take them 3 times in the state of Oregon.
Right.
And so I decided not to get a job because I was working 3 jobs. I'm like, I had to quit everything. I moved in with a couple. They took care of me financially. It was the sweetest thing because I cleaned their house. They were one of my customers. And they said, we believe in you so much, Julie. Just come live with us. We'll take care of you while you study for your boards. So I did that. And I treated I went to Barnes and Noble, and I got this NCLEX study guide, and I photocopied it. And I went over each thing like 3 times. Each book I went over 3 times. Wow. And I went in there and I did some therapy, and I, test taking anxiety therapy. And I went in there and I just said, Lord, it's in your hands. I'm going to pass. And the test turned off at 97. Remember that? Like when it turns off at 97, it turned off at 97. And I just looked up and I'm like, I passed. I knew every question. I had seen it before. It just felt so sure. So I want to just give you hope, give anybody hope that is trying to pass the boards multiple times.
Great.
It can happen.
That. It's great because actually 38,000 students failed the NCLEX this past semester. Which is an exuberant amount of nurses. So I think it's really important to talk about they are volunteering to walk into a pandemic. Number one, did you know that the most Googled thing is how to become a nurse?
Wow.
As a nurse in the pandemic, seeing what's going on, I'm like, what is wrong with you people? But at the same time, I'm like, it's so encouraging. It's like, okay, the people that are here and in here and have seen the struggle and have done the things that you've done, it's time for us to fix the profession. It's just even further motivation. They are watching us, they are seeing us, and despite everything that's going on, they're still how do I become a nurse?
Right. I want to help. It's
exactly. And I think that, hearing a story like that, for me, school was not easy. Because I just wanted to do other things besides study. Sorry, Mom, if you listen to this. But it was true. And I was very fortunate in that school was paid for. My parents paid for everything. And that is something that, I got to live in a dorm, I got to do the whole experience, and I'm so grateful for that. And I think that them pushing me to do that really opened a lot of doors. I wanted to be a marine biologist. And my dad was like, nope. And he was like, you got to pick one of these actual jobs. So I was grateful because it really was what I was supposed to do. And I think that a story like yours, where there's so many different avenues, and really nursing education as a whole is broken. Like we need to just
Mm,
revamp that whole thing. I mean, you were such a good nurse because you spent time watching labor and delivery videos. I've met nursing students who've never seen a real birth.
right.
So
Mhm.
it's kind of like you had this real world experience, you had the natural gift, the natural talent, and how do we as, you know, seasoned nurses or preceptors or even the educators, how do we foster that? And I think you're a prime example of, when someone has the heart for nursing, you teach them the rest.
Yes, that's exactly it. When you have the heart of it, I mean, there's people that are brilliant, but they just didn't have that bedside. I mean, I'll never forget one of my best friends. We were roommates, and she just was like, I can't do this. She got done, graduated. She was the top of the class. She graduated like summa cum laude, and she was like, I can't. I don't have the
Hmm.
desire to take care of other people. Like sick people, kind of like gross me out. And I'm like, I'm like, I
Like,
love
how did
sick
you
people.
finish this? How did you do this?
Why did you why did you do this with your life?
I see old people at the grocery store and I'm like, oh my God. They're
I
so
know.
like how people see babies, except I do that with old people. And everyone I know is like, Melissa, what is wrong with you?
I love old people.
Right?
There's yes, yes.
So after you passed, you got a job, I'm assuming.
Yep, after I passed, I was in 1999. I got a job. I thought labor and delivery was where I was going to go. No, sirree. You had to get 2 years of med surge experience.
Yes, I remember
So
those days.
Yep. So you cannot go in from because I'm like, what? I've got 80 hours of my labor and delivery practicum. I'm fresh. I'm like, you can hire me. Like I'm good to go. And no, so I got right into med surge, and then a year into that, my really good friend I graduated with, he was a agency nurse, and he's like, Jules, you got to get into agency nursing. So I became an agency nurse within a year of nursing, and I did that for 8 years. The
Well,
money was so good.
so good.
The money was so good, and I loved the variety, and I loved to build relationship. And I went to, every different hospital in the local area where I lived in Portland, Oregon. I loved it. It was just, it was awesome. And then I burned out. I started cross training into cardiac, and then I started doing open heart recovery. And
Mm.
then I started burning out, and I started feeling myself like get really kind of resentful and just weary. And it was this one day I was taking care of like 4 critically care patients, IVs, galore, family completely stressed out, 1 foot in ICU, 1 foot in, the ICU step down. And I sit there, I'm like, I haven't had a break. It's been, 9 hours, and I'm, barely had something in my pocket to eat. And I go into the bathroom and I just start crying oh, brings me back.
Oh.
And this sign was right in front of the toilet. It said, labor and delivery nurses needed stat. Call this number. And it was just like, oh my gosh, my ears tingling. I always know when that's like the truth. And
Yeah.
it's like, it was like God was saying, Julie, this is why you went into nursing. And so I picked up, I had my little flip phone. I
Yeah.
picked it up, and I'm like dialing. I'm on the toilet, and I'm like, hello, I'm Julie Prees, and I'd like to apply for and she's like, is this Julie Prees, the nurse that took care of me last week? And the manager was
Stop.
my patient.
Stop it.
Yes. She goes, no need to interview. She's like, you're hired. You're hired. And I'm like, you're kidding. She goes, no,
Oh.
you're hired. She's like, when can you start? Like, we need you, like, stat. And I'm like, I'm in a contract with this agency. And she's like, I'll buy you out. So she bought me out $25,000. She bought me out of my contract with the ICU step down unit. And I got hired on. And that was, yeah, so I was in labor and delivery postpartum, and then I went to full-time labor and delivery for the last 10 years.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's like what we call in my company like a like this or better moment. Like it's just like
Mm,
that was supposed to happen.
yeah.
That moment was supposed to happen. You did your time, you saw the things that you needed to see to develop your character, to make you who you are. And then it was like, boom, here's your gift.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a God wink. It was like, I
Mhm.
got you, girl. Like, I know you're suffering. You've paid your price. Here you go. Here's your gift. It felt like that. And then September 16th of 2001 happened, and that's when my whole world spun around. Literally, car accident, going to renew our 10-year wedding anniversary vows, and a pregnant woman had a psychotic episode
Stop.
and had road rage and ran into our car on I-5, and we were locked, and my husband had to slam on his brakes, and then a Ford F-150 hit us from behind, and our cars went down the freeway, and I had an injury, emotional PTSD,
Yeah.
and then just injury on my neck and my back, which eventually 2 years later turned into this shoulder going into complete frozen. So that's what took me out of labor and delivery and got me into, I did OBGYN. I was a team lead in OBGYN, and that's kind of where my journey kind of started slowly drifting away from nursing, because I was getting to the point where it was becoming so stressful. I was, team lead. I was the only nurse because the other nurse that I was working with, she fell and broke her ankle. So I was the nurse managing 10 other providers, all the CNAs or the MAs, and then I was the infertility nurse and the
Wow.
nurse who does the postpartum or the NSTs in the afternoon. So for high risk pregnancy mamas. So I had a lot of stress, and I was like, okay, something's got to give. And then my husband got a job offer in Montreal, Quebec.
Really?
And yes, and he took it, and I moved. And I basically left nursing. At that point, I was like, oh, I might go back to nursing, maybe in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And right before I left, I was introduced to plant-based medicine, the essential oils, to heal my shoulder. And my girlfriend had told me, and I was so resistant. I was like, I'm not interested. I've tried essential oils. They don't work. I'm just not interested. And she's like, Julie, I know you're suffering. She said a few F-bombs. And she's like, I know you're flipping pain, you're in pain and you're suffering. And so she's like, just try this. So I did. And that's when kind of my whole world shifted. I started looking at the root cause of what was going on, and the root cause of my emotional stress, my post-traumatic stress, my unforgiveness for this woman who hit us. And when I started learning about the psychosomatic connection between your symptoms and your emotions, and started healing my emotional state, my body started unraveling and it started to release. But that took the essential oils. Once I started using the essential oils, it was like my body got the vibration and the energy to be able to start unwinding and healing. And I was scheduled for a surgery the week that I met doTERRA. And so Monday was the class and Friday was my surgery. And on day 3, my pain and my inflammation and my joy had shifted enough for me to go, okay, I'm not doing the surgery.
Wow.
So I called and I canceled the surgery. And that was just the beginning of just my learning. And so I just started going down the road of like, why is this healing my body? So I started researching the essential oils, and PubMed.gov is a really good place if you're science minded and you want to know the science behind essential oils. That's a good place to land. aromaticscience.com. So of course in Montreal, I didn't have a job. I was bored off my butt. So I was watching YouTube after YouTube after YouTube on essential oils. And back then you could say anything about them. The FDA wasn't regulating them, and people were saying this and that and the other thing. Well, now we have to be super mindful about what we say. But I was just researching and going to PubMed and would just put frankincense in the search bar, just read all of the site, 2,300, studies they've done on frankincense essential oil. I'm like, holy moly, why don't we know about this? Why don't we know about this?
You know why? Big pharma. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's so important. And that's the part. That's how we came to find each other, right? Because the universe again was like, here, let me find you somebody who has the experience, who has the story, who is in your same profession and can really relate. You know, we're science based. We're not
Mm.
that was the thing. I'm critical care. Like you talk
Yeah.
about the most science based element that you can, and I'm a big proponent of essential oils, and when you learn the science behind it, it creates that bridge between
Yes.
what we call the woo woo, you know, and the real
Mhm.
medicine.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I agree. And that's where I feel like serendipity brought us together. And I'm so grateful for that moment. Yeah,
I
just
think
awesome.
so. So talk a little bit about your journey with DoTerra, and maybe
So
for those of people who don't know what DoTerra is, but they're an essential oil company, and they actually source their own essential oils. Is that correct?
correct, correct. doTERRA is the largest essential oil company in the world. They were established in 2008 and really established by a woman, which I absolutely love, Emily Wright. And she was inspired to start this company based on her experience working with another essential oil company. And she really wanted to source from the highest level where it was science based, where they could actually third party test these and prove that these essential oils were pure. So there's complete transparency, which I absolutely love, that you can go and you can learn from doTERRA. They're sourcing the farmers, and you can go to source2you.com is where you can find all of their sourcing information, how they take care of the farmers, how they take care of the communities inside where the farmers are harvesting these essential oils. So I just in 2014 September, I went to a conference. The gal who basically sold me the essential oils, she called me and she's like, Jules, I know you're a nurse. I know you love the science. They have an annual convention. It's not about buying or selling or anything like that. It's all science based, 3 days. Interested? And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm interested. Like, I want to know the why. So I went, I called my sister. I'm like, you're going to Salt Lake City, Utah with me. We flew there together. And I sat there and I listened to Emily Wright with like tears in her eyes. And I felt like for the first time, I felt like this was a mission. This was something where I didn't feel like that as a nurse. I didn't feel like that we were a mission on this journey to like help mankind. But with this, I was sitting there and it was just like chills. And I'm like, I looked at Janice and I'm like, dude, I'm like, I'm literally thinking about doing this as a business. And she's like, yeah, me too. And I'm like,
Really?
let's go. Like, let's go.
Wow.
Let's run together. And it gives me chills because I remember that moment, that 7-second moment right there when I was just thinking in my head, this is what I've been preparing. This is what the universe has been preparing me for. All of the training, all of the nursing was not for naught. I'm so grateful for it. And I'm so grateful for that knowledge because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't appreciate what plant medicine can do for us.
Right.
Yeah. So my journey started then in September 2014. I decided, and I get home in September, I'm starting this. I don't know how, and then my neighbor brought over a plate of cookies. It was like the universe is like this. I just imagine it's like as soon as you decide something, isn't
Yeah.
it great? You just told me that. It's like the universe is like click, 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 click. Okay, here's that person. Here's that person to support you. Here's this dream. Here you go. So the neighbor came, a Dem. She came with this plate of cookies, and she's like, "Hey neighbor, I live right across the street. How? Who are you? What do you do? And what do you know? Blah blah blah." And I just blurted, my name is Julie, and we just moved here, and I sell essential oils. And she's like, what? What do you mean essential oils? She's like, I love essential oils. And she's like, how do you tell people? How do you teach people how to use them? And I said, well, like home parties. And she goes, oh, like a sex toy party? I'm like, well, kind of, more like a Tupperware party. It's not. So she was my first hostess, and she like made this little Facebook group. Like, I didn't even know you could even do a Facebook group. And she did like oils and wine and like 21 ladies came and all of them got drunk and started
Wow.
using oils. They all bought oils. It
Wow.
was it was phenomenal. I was like, whoa, is this how it's gonna be? And that's how it was. Like we everything's vibration. And so when you step into a vibration and you start embodying, like, this is who I am, and this is the medicine, and this is the vehicle I'm going to share my light and love to the world. It's like it's palpable. It's like it's just like, I want to join her vibration. I want to be on that journey with her. And that was, that's how it all began, is the vibration. And then my husband lost his job in November of 2000, and that was like another big blessing. As much as we were so devastated, that was really, looking back, it's like, him losing his job was where my hunger began.
Yep.
And for you to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be hungry.
Yep. Like
You
88
have to.
your bank account hungry? Yes.
88 cents in the bank. Yes, exactly. We had like $20,000 to move our butts back to the States. It took every penny to move ourselves back to the States. And that was like renting a U-Haul and doing it all ourselves. We were able to move ourselves back. We moved in with my sister in her basement. She had a spa and salon in Walla Walla, Washington. And I said, Janice, let's do this. And so I could come in, and that's how I started. Like, she's got 28 employees, and we just started, funneling people in and started, teaching about the essential oils. And it just like was this beautiful snowball effect. Just
That's
amazing.
awesome. That's so cool. I think it's so neat that like you said, once you decide that this is your journey and this is what you're going to do, and you say to the universe or God or whatever your belief is, source is,
Yeah.
hey, this is my purpose. You're making it clear that this is my purpose. The people and the things just come and they happen. And sometimes that growth is painful, that because it is hard to let go of things that make you feel comfortable or make you feel safe. And entrepreneurship, there is nothing safe in entrepreneurship. But the best part about it is, like, what you make is directly impacted by how hard you work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all performance based. If you're not getting out there and sharing and talking about people, and if your heart's not in the right place, if your why is that I want to make $1 million, you're not going to move the needle. I've been in this industry for 7 years, and I've worked with many people that said, Julie, I want to do this with you. And what's my why? My why is I want to make this X amount of money. But your heart isn't the center, and your hunger isn't about that. I want to serve people, and I want to help other people improve their life and get empowered. Like, that could be one of your whys. But if it's your driving why, people are like dogs. They can smell that scarcity. They can smell that fear of, like, I'm attached to you buying something from me, instead of, I can feel, when I'm talking to somebody and they're telling me about their suffering, I can feel their suffering. And this may or may not be a fit for you. And I've said that to some people. People, are like, I want to get off my pharmaceuticals, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And I'm like, and they're like, they eat McDonald's and they do, whatever. And I'm like, this may not be the fit for you, because this is a lifestyle. And if you're willing to change just 10%, let's just change 10%, like go for a walk down your street, or, choose to drink water versus pop. Let's do those habits, and then come back to me, and let's then look at how can we introduce essential oils to your life. Like, let's see if we can do natural things, like simple things that doesn't cost a penny. And let's see how you do with that. And I've had people literally go do that and call me back and say, Jules, I'm ready. You're right. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to take the steps that I needed to take to really get serious about my health. You saw through my BS, basically. And because, when someone, I get it, because I came to the world of essential oils on 9 pharmaceuticals. I was 30 pounds overweight. I was broken. I was a hot mess. And but I was ready. I was hungry. I was like, draw the line in the sand. This is my last resort.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think the journey, the wellness journey, I think in the United States, especially, we have a culture of disease. we fix disease. There is no culture of wellness. And the
Mhm.
idea that when you live in a state of wellness, the desire to be well, because it comes from a desire of self-love. And I
Mm.
think that's a lot of the things that I think that is what made you so successful with doTERRA, is because you are empowering people to love themselves, therefore their vibration, right? Their energy,
Mm.
it changes. You raise your vibrations. And we talk about energy in our company because to me, like, all this woo woo hippie stuff, like, okay, vibrations, like, I don't want to hear about that. That's a bunch of, like, you know hippie stuff. But
Right.
really, there is science behind it. We're made of molecules, we're made of atoms, and they have protons and electrons, and they circle in energy. And dense things that feel hard, are just because those atoms are closer together. But
Right.
really, they're all energy, so everything has a vibration. So
Mhm.
when you are in a flow of self-love and caring and things like that,
Mhm.
technically you vibrate faster, you vibrate higher. Uh,
Mhm.
so that is something that the essential oils, really scientifically, their
Mhm.
molecular structure, your body desires to align with that. And
Yeah.
that's how it works. Same with crystal energy, all this stuff that we call woo woo, there's real science behind the way it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking to that point, when you look at a essential oil molecular cellular shape under a microscope, it's almost identical to a human cell.
Really? I
So
didn't know
when you Yeah, so when you ingest or topical or inhale an essential oil, the body recognizes it and goes, "You're not foreign. I know you. I know what to do with you." It's not something where it has to, like, think about it like when you put Tylenol in the body. It's like, "You're really big. I have to, like, break you down. You're big shape, so you can't get into the cells," right? So so the essential oil molecular size is so minuscule, they can enter into a cell, penetrate into that membrane of that plasma membrane. So, yeah.
I think something about we're starting to get a lot of research about ancestral DNA. So
Mm.
there is a study that was done with lab rats and or mice, and the mice were, when they hit a bell, they received a dose of cocaine. So
Mhm.
every time they heard the bell, they went crazy because they were going to get this drug. Well, they bred those lab rats, and those lab rats had babies, and even when they heard the bell, they exhibited the same behavior, but they were never exposed to the stimulant. And
Mhm.
the second generation did the same thing, and it continued. So there is talk that, science is proving that there is a genetic structure to our cellular, our
Mhm.
DNA, that reacts. So if you think about the scope of where we get essential oils and how it was used in native culture, there is a genetic component of the way that we used to use these plant medicines to heal before we had pharmaceuticals, and your body recognizes that
Mm.
in your ancestral DNA. Your body
Phenomenal.
your body says, I remember that. What is that?
Yeah.
That's how it works. That's how it works so well. And then when you are in alignment with source, if you're vibrating higher, you have self-love, you're talking about, you're in an area in your life where you're able to exchange energy properly, you are able to receive that energy from the ancestors, and you're able to be more in that vibration. So the essential oils are basically magnified because your cellular composition is recognizing the things that it forgot.
Right. I love that. I love that. I sense that in you with this legacy feeling, like you're going to, go through your life and you're going to be able to look in the rearview mirror and you're leaving a legacy because you're imprinting upon the nursing system and the nursing world. And I love that idea as we transfer that same conversation into essential oils, how with rat, as moms, as we adults, we inhale it, then we have children, then their cells have inhaled it or experienced the essential oils, and it's going to keep that legacy going into new cellular forms versus inhaling something that's synthetic that could change our DNA structure.
Right. And we know that the cellular medium, your cells will try and mutate to meet the needs that they need to maintain homeostasis.
Right,
So, that's how cancer is formed. You eat
right.
processed foods, you eat, you're using all these pharmaceuticals, so they're modifying in order to try and meet homeostasis. And when they do that, they cause like rapid abnormal proliferation, which is cancer.
Right.
So I think it's interesting that if we know that, right, and most people they know that, right? They know that
Yeah.
bad drugs, cause proliferation. Well, what if we look at it from the reverse, right? So if we have something that's positive and that causes homeostasis naturally, what makes you
Mhm.
think that it can't fight or decrease your risk of developing cancer? Now, we know there's a genetic proponent to cancer, but
Mhm.
when you change the medium of the cells, those cancer genes proliferate faster. So that's why
Right.
you have problems with maybe you have a genetic predisposition, but if you're not exposed to all the external factors that change the cell medium, then you probably won't develop that cancer as fast or as severe as you would have if you were eating crap food. And essential oils have the ability to help your cells align in a molecular structure that is positive and
Yeah.
maintains a natural homeostasis.
Yeah, 100%. And I always like to combine a non-pharmaceutical, non-plant-based, and non something that cost anything. So people are like, okay, Julie, you're not just trying to sell something. And what I like to recommend is your mindset. It's free. So your mindset sets your molecular shape right
Mm,
away. So your thoughts become your cellular reality. So if you are thinking thoughts, like for example, if I got a diagnosis today, Julie, you have cancer, my thoughts would be of healing. My thoughts would be healed, actually healed. I would think thoughts that I am not, my cells are already in the process of healed. I wouldn't be in a victim mindset because that breeds more cellular, damage. So that's the first thing that I like to teach is to think, to really be mindful of what are your thoughts. And I think this is so critical right now with the pandemic is that's the first thing. I taught this really beautiful class this morning. And this gal said, I need you to come in and teach my team all about protocols and how to boost our immune system, all of that. And 20 minutes of it was mindset.
yeah,
Because when we bombard our brain with the propaganda or the negativity of of the realities of what's happening in our world, be aware. I'm all about awareness. Be aware. Don't have your head in the sand, but don't have that be 90% of what you hear every day. Let
yep.
the news be just kind of an asset to your day, but that your day that you're listening to Melissa Positivity podcasts, that you're listening to, mindset shifting things, that you are staying in alignment with your true power, which is love and kindness, forgiveness, willingness, being detached, having acceptance and forgiveness, like all of those vibration energies. um, and I think that that's what keeps our body into we're either in that fight or flight, or we're in that state of cortisone pumping.
And I think one of the major issues is, I don't know if you ever learned this in nursing, but you are not your thoughts
Right.
and you are separate from your environment. And I
Yes.
think that's the biggest issue. Nobody knows that. We don't, even in your home life, that is not something that you usually learn. I think as females, especially, we learn that later in life when our whole life is falling apart. And then you have to figure out you're going to stand up and take care of your kids and your life and everything that's going on. And that's where we find that really like that anchoring, that self love. But one of the things
Mm,
that I like to tell people is, if you believe in chakras or you don't know what a chakra is, but you have that gut feeling in your stomach, your solar
mm,
plexus is where that is. So
yeah.
when something doesn't feel right or it makes you feel gross, makes you feel ew, that is not
Mm,
a high vibration thing. That is not something that's for you. And if
yeah.
you're constantly in a state where you feel ew, then you
Mhm.
change that. And I'm not
Yeah.
talking about, I heard a self-help thing the other day and it was like, oh, these are your 4 things: get therapy, get help, change your job. I'm like, okay, well, what if I don't have the money for therapy? I don't know
Yeah.
what kind of help I need, and I don't want to change my job because I loved my job.
Right.
That's not an option, you know? So
Right.
what if we could find ways that we can mitigate the stress and mitigate those feelings of ew in our body? And one of the things that we can use is essential oils, because no matter what's happening around us, right? We can
Mm.
bring that mindfulness to the front. Like, okay, Julie told me that I have a choice about what I think, so I'm going to think positively. Like, even if it's a small thing, like
Yeah.
whatever, gratitude. It doesn't have to be I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful, and I don't want more. There's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with abundance,
Right.
but you have to find a place where you're like, okay, I'm okay. I say that
Mhm.
to myself all the time. I say, Melissa, you're all right.
Yeah.
You're okay. Melissa, you are loved.
Mhm.
I say that out loud. Those are mantras that I have to say out loud. I used to say all the time because I have 3 little ones and I'm running this big business and their dad's in the military and he's away a lot. And I would say, oh my God, I'm such a bad mom. I'm such a bad,
Mm.
like I literally almost forgot my kid's 4-year-old birthday. I'm such a bad mom. But it's not that I'm a bad mom. I'm a busy mom and I'm doing the best that I can. And my best is always
Mm.
good. So when I started changing that mantra, like I caught myself,
Self-love.
oh, I don't like that thought. Ew, ew, I have that ew feeling in my stomach when
Mm.
I think that about myself.
Yeah.
So I stopped that thought and said, okay, what can I replace it with? Even if I don't believe it right now, I think it's bullshit, I'm still going to say it. So
Love it.
I stopped with, I'm not a bad mom, I'm a busy mom. And sometimes
Yeah.
it would be through tears that I would be convincing myself, I'm not a bad mom, I'm not a bad mom, I'm a busy mom.
Yeah.
But now I don't have that thought anymore. Even when things are going crazy and they're screaming and I want to scream, I'm like, I'm just a busy mom. I'm
Yeah.
busy. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And we can use the breath as an anchor. So no
Right.
matter where we are, we can always take a slow and controlled breath. And that kind of sets our heart rate and resets our, heart rate variability. It really resets the way that we are able to relate. If we're in a stressful situation, we still have to breathe.
Yeah.
So you can choose the type of breath that you take. You can't control the situation around you, but you can choose the type of breath or the way
Mhm.
you move your breath. Or you can choose the things that you use to supplement your breath, like essential oils. I love to tell nurses to use they make those little bath bombs. I don't know
Mhm.
if Tara has something like that, but I've seen them where they put the essential oil in like a what is it, baking soda or something, and you bake
Yes.
and then you put it in the bottom of your shower. And then
Yes.
as the water runs down and it steams and it just, I used to do that in COVID land when I was up there in Boston. We would make them and then we'd throw them in the shower and we'd like strip naked in the little entryway and then jump in. And I would tell it was great. I used to have this I'd be like, okay, eucalyptus and tea tree oil. I'm like, kill the COVID, kill the COVID. But really, I had been swimming in the COVID cesspool all day, but it was really like I was allowing myself to wash that negativity down the drain. And
Yeah.
sometimes I just couldn't raise my vibration. I just couldn't. So I
Yeah.
needed a tool. And that essential oil really is a wonderful tool.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that I caught that you said, which I absolutely love, when you say I'm a bad mom and you said I'm a busy mom, may I suggest that you might say, I am my kid's shiro, or my kid's, like, it's almost like I'm my kid's leader. Like, they're learning from you how to be in the world. And it's like,
Crazy. They literally came here like a couple years ago and then are expected to be like full functioning humans with manners and handle all their emotions. Shit, I can't even handle my emotions during a day. And then you take a lollipop from them or tell them they can't have a cookie and they lose their shit. Well, no wonder. I mean, I can't even change poop by myself. And I know that cookie tastes good. I want it. And you tell me I can't have it. Like, that is shitty. Like, can you imagine? People say terrible twos. Well, could you imagine being two? It's horrible.
it's a rough life.
Now I'm just like, oh, it's so hard being two, isn't it? And he's like, yes. So we take
Oh.
3 deep breaths and I go, and my little toddler with his long hair, his hippie hair, and he's like crying and he's like,
I'm breathing, Mom.
it's my job to give them the skills to function in this world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
that is
love that.
say that from now on. I am their hero today. So you got to keep his shit together.
I am my kid's hero. Like that's what you are. Like we look at our parents and we think they're so amazing. I remember thinking that my mom, they were just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And like we aren't thinking lack. We aren't thinking why aren't they doing X, Y, and Z? We feel safe, we feel fed, we feel taken care of, and we feel, we just see what they're doing. It's magic. It's in your, in your own mind that you're creating these stories that you're not enough. And you are.
Yep.
And
And
you
I
are.
especially for women. And now, women have this pressure to be top performer in their career. They have the pressure to
Mm.
be the top performer in the community. They've got to look a certain way on Instagram. They have to do a certain thing. Their house has to be clean, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm just doing the best that I can do. And that is
Yes.
always good enough. And I'm not comparing myself to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah.
kids are happy and most of the time they're polite, so it's
You're like, and they're alive.
now they do have a potty mouth sometimes and I am guilty, my kids do know, appropriately how to use the word shit, but that's my and it's a word. And I read this study that children who curse are like intellectually, they're a lot smarter and they have a higher threshold for pain. So
There you go.
like that's on the don't say around Mimi list,
Right. That's their coping skill. I love it.
Deep breathing and shit. No.
Keep breathing and yeah. And maybe brave and calmer. I
Yeah.
love that.
Oh yeah. So share your little kit. So Julie has this awesome kit just for dogs and kids, which they're pretty much synonymous. And it's safe for infant use. And you can, she puts them on earlier, and I really wanted to be able to smell it through the computer. So
I know. We need scratch and sniff. Well, this is a cute little little bag that it comes in that the kids can have, and really essentially these are diluted so safely they could roll this whole bottle on and not get affected. So they're specific for different things that are specific for kids. So growing pains is rescue, so it's really great, soothing for the joints. Brave for little kids that are just feeling like, oh mom, I'm just, I'm nervous or I'm scared or
this pandemic, I have a 6-year-old who was on the spectrum, and I'll tell you, this pandemic has made him so nervous, like more nervous. And now this guy eats his wood bunk bed. Okay, so we're talking about like oral fixations, and he chews on things that are not food, and blah blah
yeah.
blah. I use green tea. I use or natural things to try and help. So I am definitely interested in getting that for him because he wears his little crystal. I think he would love those.
Yeah, and you can even put these on like a little cotton ball and they stuff them in their pocket, or you can even get a little diffuser necklace or a little bracelet for him that he slips on. I know they might get lost or whatever. But thinker for kids that are studying, and I think you have a 2, 6,
I have a 2, a 4, and a 6.
and 6. That's right.
And they at home school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm those parents that couldn't handle it, so I hired a tutor. Thank you to Mimi and Granddaddy for helping with the cost, but I couldn't do it. Plus he's so smart. His IQ is 120. The kid beats me
Wow.
on the regular, and he needed somebody qualified to teach him because I am not qualified. Not
Yeah.
qualified.
That's really good to know. You're like, I'm drawing the line. Like this, we need a separate
Boundaries.
boundaries.
I am not going to pull my hair out and stress myself out over this. I found a preschool teacher who wasn't working anymore. She had a background in special education. She really loved Noah when she had him when he was 3. And I reached out to her and I said, "Would you work for me for, whatever, $20 for the day or whatever?" And she teaches both boys and does their
Nice.
full curriculum. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's phenomenal. So that she comes over, or are you online?
Yep, she comes at 9 o'clock in the morning and she stays till 11. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays.
That's awesome. Oh, that's just a breath of fresh air. You're
Yeah,
like, she's here.
my husband built these desks and they sit at their little desks in their toy room and they just love her. She bought mealworms and they
Oh,
did the mealworm project. They're doing a garden. She just got seeds for a garden. I mean,
oh my gosh.
she's, very tough with them, and, she's great.
That's awesome. That is so cool. So just to round this out, this is Tamer. This is for tummies that get a little upset after eat, or sometimes they're like, Mommy, I'm nervous. Really good to just roll. And these are all little stainless steel roller bottles. So they can just, and you can just pop these off and just add more coconut oil. If they're like, Mommy, it burns, or it's hot or spicy, you can just add more coconut oil to it. Calmer, which is amazing. So I use on my puppy, I use Brave. She loves Brave. And if you have dogs, I offer oils to the dogs, meaning I hold it out about 4 to 6 inches from their nose. And then if they start coming towards the oil, that means that's the oil that they are wanting or needing. If
Because
they're
their
like
noses are so strong. You don't want
so
to
strong,
overwhelm them with a scent that they wouldn't
yeah,
tolerate.
exactly. So I open like 3, and some people that have horses will just like put 3 or 4 oils up on the fence, and the
Mm,
horse will come over right to the one and nudge the one that they want. That, I mean, animals are brilliant.
that's so
They
cool.
they know what they need. So I put these on her today. We're working on separation anxiety. So she she was drawn to these 2. She came right to them. She licked this one. And I'm like, well, don't do that. So I just put it right behind her little ears. I put it right on her throat and right here. And she was so cute. She was like, you can see it on my stories. I just like rolled it right there. And she was like, it was almost like she was like, oh, it was
I
just
have
a
a
really,
dog with anxiety, so I'll need to try it with her.
yeah, it's great. This one is probably one of my favorite as an adult too. I use this one a lot, which is the Courage one. And then Steady, so grounding. So if you have a kiddo that's like bouncing off the walls, you're
That's
like
my
calm
one.
the down. Steady is a grounding. So you just have them roll this on their feet. And so the more you can get the
Oh, I
kids,
have one of our boxes for our nurses. We have a one that you put on your feet before you put your shoes on and socks on for your shift in the morning, and it's a grounding. It's a ground.
I love it.
What scents are they? Combination of scents or one scent for each thing? Or
There's like 4 or 5 cents in each one.
okay.
So there's a combination of them, and I don't have my glasses on, or else I would be able to
No,
read them.
it's
But
okay. I was just curious because I know that like different combinations make different things, and I'll
yeah,
tell you, I got this Native American spray, this white buffalo calf woman spray. And Native people have been using these natural things for thousands
ancient.
and thousands of years. And I
Yes.
just think it's crazy that we think they're nuts. I mean, how do you think they survived? How do you think they made you and your family? I mean, they survived some way, and it was by using this stuff.
From the earth. Yeah, so that's going back to my Amazon story. Is I messaged this girl who had gone, and I said, what do I need to take? And she says, Julie, go to Barnes and Noble and get the book Where There Is No Doctor, Where There Is No Dentist. And that was my Bible. So I mean, you should see it. I still have it today. It's all like dog-eared up and just thrashed, because I use that for everything from a yeast infection to a fever. And we use we didn't have medicine. We had to
Right.
use the plants. So we were boiling and using white vinegar for douching for the yeast infections, and, rashes. We were putting like sawdust on for rashes. We were using the earth. And that was my first kind of aha moment of like, okay, there's something to plant-based medicine that we need to learn in the Western world a little bit more. So yeah, so yeah, it's really fun.
It just like came full circle. Your
Mm-hmm.
journey really came completely full circle. And I
Yeah,
think it's so cool how the universe was like, okay, Julie, here you go.
yeah,
Whether you want it or not, here it is.
here it is. Exactly.
Yeah, and so
Oh,
you're pretty successful with your doTERRA business, correct?
yes. So I'm so blessed. I feel, this business isn't done alone. It's done with a team. And I love that, in nursing, I learned how to be a team. Like, you can't do your job. You can, but when you're in the middle of, taking care of 5, 6 patients, and one needs to be turned, and another one needs to have meds, and another one needs this, and another one that needs this, and the nurse comes up, or, someone comes up, can I help you? You don't say no. I mean, you say, yes, please come. do this together. So that was kind of the breeding ground. See what I mean? Like everything was a stepping stone. Like, Julie, you're going to be a leader of leaders. And this is how you're going to learn how to do it. You have to learn delegation. You have to learn how to lead a team. I was a team lead. You have to learn this. You have to learn how to, have crucial conversations.
Best entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
All of it. You have to do all of it.
You do. I mean, we have to communicate. I was just telling Ryan yesterday, my husband, he was kind of complaining about a communication issue at work. And I said, I'm so grateful for nursing because we had SBAR communication. It's like situation, problem, background.
I know people like that now.
I know. It's so funny. That's how I talk to my team. Like, I'm like, this is the it's the back, it trained me for being an entrepreneur. So yeah, it started out with me just, wanting to get my oils paid for, my habit paid for. And that happened in 3 months. And then within a year, I equaled the amount that I was making as a nurse. And then it kind of just doubled and tripled. And at this point, it's just a beautiful community of customers and business partners. And we just work in tandem and together. And everyone has their own business within my team, but we all work together, which is really fun.
Yeah, that's neat. I think that I used to sell wine for a company. I really enjoyed learning about the wine. I never really was like the salesy type person.
Yeah.
So I didn't do very well with it, but I know some random facts about wine and I'm really good at tasting wine now. So, we should have a wine and oils call one time.
There you go.
But I appreciate you so much. This has been so wonderful. We're coming up on an hour here. So I know time flies by when you're just like chatting. I love it. So how can people get a hold of you if they're interested in wellness tips and, joining your team?
Yeah, so Instagram is where I live. It's Julie Prees. And there's a private account that's Julie Prees _ and that's my personal. I'm closing that. And I only have one account right now that I'm actually using, and that's Julie Prees and on Instagram. And there's a link in my bio. There are 4 kind of buy-ins. You can get a sample for free just to check out what doTERRA is all about. With specific health goals that you want to achieve. And then there's I want to work with you, Julie. I want to run with you. I want to be on this mission with you. And then there's actually I want to just be a customer. So there's 3 different kind of buy-in offers. And then I have a free ebook. So if you're already into essential oils and you're like, I got them, that's the most common thing I hear is I have them and they're sitting on my counter and what do I do with them? So I have a little free ebook that you can just download and start using them right away. And there are some that are doTERRA specific, and there are some that are not. I am a avid doTERRA believer because of their strict testing. They're the only company I trust because of the adulteration out there, and so I'm really avid because they recommend internal use and they recommend different usage. And that's only because they can back their oils up 100% that they're pure. So yeah.
That's awesome. And when they source them, they give back to the community, correct?
Yes, they are. They look for the community. They have 2 kind of bars that they want to hit when they're looking to source an essential oil. They look for the area where that plant is indigenous. So, peppermint grows naturally in Washington State in the US. So that's where they tested that peppermint plant, and it has the highest mineral levels that is, off the charts. Mm-hmm. So they're like, we want to, but what about that community that needs us? What about that community is going to be blessed by us? Same with, different areas in where they source their frankincense. Frankincense is really, really popular. It's probably one of the most popular essential oils for perfumes and for medicinal usage. And for that reason, the trees are definitely being harvested. And so doTERRA has actually brought a national company in, paying millions of dollars to bring in the standard of how you can source frankincense. So every company across the board has to source, they have to let a tree rest environmentally, it has to rest for 20 years. and then you can source that tree. 20 years. That's a
Wow.
long time. So you can, so they're really environmentally friendly. They're making sure that they are really sustainable and making this earth, well and healthy, and then making us well in the same breath.
That's so cool. I'm glad that you were able to find a company that really is in alignment, and as an entrepreneur, when you create your company, you really think about those things, and it's neat. It's encouraging to see something of that size that really stuck by that. So, but I love talking to you, and we'll have to do this again. We are going to do, I think, a monthly collaborator podcasts with Cortex. So everybody that we've talked to and that is in the Cortex network will be invited on. So we'd love to have you. It'd be
Good.
super cool to hear about everything that's going on, all these wonderful people that the universe has brought us. So
I love it.
I really appreciate your time, and it's been wonderful to talk to you, and we will catch up again soon.
Thanks, Mel.
All
You're
right.
awesome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.